name is Brian Copeland, and I'm here with Joe Dillstrom today for Words and Whiskey. Thank you for joining us. As always, we got Iechyd whiskey, and it's rye whiskey, and that's what we're sipping on today. Check it out at SBC the Cellar, and
it's really, really good.
It is good. It's an easy sipper, you know.
It's got a nice finish.
Yeah.
Smooth.
Well, I'll do the bourbon whenever this one runs out. We'll see when that happens. Depends on how much I drink. But
give us about an hour.
Right? Yeah, you never know. So I kind of didn't do a script because I know you well enough in the respect of some of the artists I haven't known quite as well about their repertoire, and I hadn't seen them as much. But yeah, dude, I'm excited to talk to you because
likewise, man.
You know, it's just one of those things. And you started me on that whole Bose thing, and you know, and now everybody's asking me about the Bose too, and I feel like I'm Joe Dillstrom now, and like that just makes me feel better as a human.
Oh man, well shoot.
Yeah,
I'm glad that's working out, man.
Yeah. So you're a musician, obviously, but you also like teach the maths, right?
Yeah.
It's
a weird.
Tell me about that a little bit, so people kind of just get to know you a little bit better.
Sure. So of course, I play music, and that's number one in my heart and in my mind and all of that. But I also enjoy and get to be a teacher, and I've been what's called an adjunct. So I'm here sometimes, and then I'm there. It just depends on the semester. I'm usually at Distillery, which is where I'm teaching right now, and that's cool. I mean, it's hard to get like a permanent gig in higher education, and so that's part of why I've been doing the adjunct thing for a while. But the actual teaching part of it rules. I mean, it's not unlike performing music where there's a set of people in a room, and like you have a goal, and you want to get them somewhere, and your whole job is to just facilitate that. With music, it's an emotional, it's like, with sound, and you're trying to just put pictures in people's heads or just give them something to bop to.
Yeah.
Enhance the vibe. With math, it's like, okay, like I'm just trying to open up your brain and teach you how to think better about a certain thing. But they're very similar. I mean, like being a performer is not unlike just getting up there and being a teacher. So if you can do one, you can do the other, honestly. And so it's cool. There's a nice feedback loop in my life of like, I go do this and teach and be a nerd, and then I go do this, and then I be a nerd another way. Like I'm just a big nerd, but man, that's kind of that's me.
Being a nerd, man, like that's what makes you good at things, though.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole thing. Like I always took that when people would call me like a nerd or something, I'd always take that as like a good thing. Like it's not a bad thing. But yeah, I mean, for me, like I do way different things too.
Yeah.
But mine is also like it's almost performative, like as a personal trainer.
Totally.
Like especially if you're in front of a class of people, it's a kind of a performative art in some ways. You prepare what you prepare, and then you perform it, and it's
right.
It's just like playing guitar. I prepare everything I need to prepare, and then perform.
And like when you're training with someone, you've got to be communicative. You have to know how to talk to them. You have to know how to read them. So you have to be intuitive, and that's the same set of skills that you apply in a room, with people. And it's like, okay, the slow ballad might not work right now. So like, let's get them bumping a little bit, and let's wind them down, and then hit them where the heart is. And like, so, it's like it's a particular application of a general skill.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is we get to work on those in different ways in our lives, and I feel really blessed to get to do that. And I just try to like be right by it, and just live life and enjoy it. So.
Well, it keeps you well-rounded.
Yeah, exactly.
Like especially dealing with different. What I like about training is I deal with different age groups, and like you dealing with college students and stuff like that. Like
totally.
It's an understanding of something that you don't deal with every day otherwise.
Right.
And I don't know. Some jobs are more very specific things.
Right.
Whereas like both of our jobs, I feel like on all sides, music and otherwise, like you're trying to entertain, no matter what that means. Like you're trying to entertain whoever there is there. Like
absolutely.
Older, younger, whatever. And it's just kind of cool to be able to do that.
Yeah. And you got to think on the fly. That's another part of it that I like. I mean, I don't always like that in the moment, because sometimes I'm like, like two roads are crossing, which one do I take? But like when I'm like, how to say it? when I'm at my most, like in my head and I'm there, I can like solve that problem quickly. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then you do it right and then it works, you know. There are also times where it doesn't work, but you just, you know, you cry on the way home and you forget about it. But, you know, yeah, man, it's great. And to get to write, you know, your own stuff and explore a part of yourself through that and try to get other people into that as well is another rewarding thing. So, like, you know, it's facets, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool. So you have a new album coming out, right?
Yes.
What is it going to be called?
Heartstring Tugs.
Heartstring Tugs. Okay, so you write a lot of love songs, correct?
Yeah, you know, I kind of ended up going that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is funny because like 4 years ago, I would have been like, nah, dude, love songs suck. Like, or like I had this weird you know, not into it. I don't know how to do it.
Everybody does it anyway.
Right.
I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like I started playing with Ryan Dunn, and I was like, dude, what are your favorite kinds of things to play? And he was like, well, man, I really love ballads. And I was like, well, shit, I don't really have any ballads of my own or many at all. I was like, I should learn how to write love songs. And then I fell in love with love songs. And so this album is just a set of ballads and love songs that I've written that are kind of jazzy, kind of, you know, I guess I take influence from a variety of things, but there's a little bit of a jazzy feel. There's a little bit of a country thing, a little bit of a folk thing in there. So.
Yeah. Ozark's jazz.
Yeah, there you go.
In a lot of ways, yeah. I feel like that's what I've kind of always thought for you. Like it's kind of like an Ozarky kind of jazz.
That's really sweet. I appreciate that.
Yeah, like kind of mixed with like a New Orleans kind of vibe sometimes.
Oh sure, yeah.
Like I feel some of that in your music.
Oh man, yeah. I love like Fats Domino, Dr. John, all of that early rock and roll stuff that came out of New Orleans, Louisiana. So it's good stuff, man. But yeah, that's kind of the plan for me. We're gonna hopefully put it out on vinyl. Right now we're mixing it, and you know how that goes. Yeah, the waiting. Sure. Yep, and it's like, oh man,
and then you master it, and sometimes it messes up the mix, and you have to go back and remix it, and then it's a whole process that people I don't think understand how long it takes to do.
Yeah, man. That's where we're at, but happy to be at that point, and. Once that's kind of further along, I'm gonna press, I think, a limited run to vinyl and try and sell those. And because I don't know about you, man, but like, and this, pardon us if this is too insider baseball, but like, it's hard to figure out in this day and age, like, what route do I go with trying to get my stuff out to the largest number of people, while also still being able to like recoup some degree of like profit from it. And it's not a naked cash grab profit, because like, if that's what I wanted, I would not be playing music. You know what I mean? Like, no. I would have like worked my ass off and learning economics or something, or machine learning or whatever. But you still want to be able to justify, the effort that you put in and to be able to get something out of it. So.
And the thousands of dollars on top of the time that you put in. Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, music I feel like it's got to be a labor of love. Like because especially at this point, you don't make much off of what you record. Yeah. You spend all this time writing, you spend all this time recording, you spend all this time doing this, and money.
Yep.
But time is money, So you're spending all this time and all this money doing all these things.
Yeah.
And then you're putting it out and not getting much back. Because even if you get 100,000 plays on Spotify.
Here's $3.
Here's $50. It's basically what it is. I mean,
exactly.
One of our songs has like 50,000 plays on Spotify, and we've made, I think, overall over the whole time of Spotify, like $500 on Spotify.
There you go. Yeah.
Like, and that's, we've got over 100,000 plays of our music on Spotify,
right?
And we're not really making anything off of that.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, it's definitely, it's hard to do that, I feel like sometimes. It's like, man, how do I get this out to where it actually has the best reward for me?
Yeah, man.
Which everyone has for their career, but it's a little different in music.
Indeed.
You don't really get paid for what you do half the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, people try to lowball you when you go play shows too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a complicated thing.
Oh yeah, and it's easy to become frustrated and bitter and like let that wear you down. And like we've all gone through periods of that dominating our mind, And I mean, God, I think in the past month, I've probably quit music like 804 times. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm done. Tomorrow, I'm done. I'm selling all my shit. And then the next day, I'm like, oh, I found a neat chord. I'm right back in. Like,
you do think about it a lot. You think about that stuff a lot for sure, because you'll have a bad weekend or whatever, and it's really easy to just go, man,
it sticks to you for a while.
How is this a thing?
Yeah.
You know, like how am I doing this for my living? Like, this is, nobody cares about what I'm doing. You know, like, you'll feel that way quite often. Anyway, besides getting into all of that, because we could do that forever. We talk about this with each other quite often.
Right.
So you love songs. Are you somebody that, like, can you write songs that aren't very much tied to your real life? Or are you somebody where you, like, have a muse in your love songs? In certain instances, you know, maybe different muses, but still, like, something that is a muse to your love songs kind of thing.
Gotcha. You know, it's hard to, I think, honestly, like,
not to put you on the spot. I know you got a girlfriend and stuff, and I don't want to put you on the spot for that way, but
they're all for Emily. No, the way to, man, it's weird. Like, a song is kind of like, for me, well, let me put it this way. It's very rare that a song comes directly out of my own life. With that said, it does come from, like, feelings, like impulses in my brain that I've had at some point. So, like, there may be a song, like, I've got a ballad. It's called Just Tell Me I'm Your Man. And the basis, or the whole vibe of the tune is just, like, when you're down, like, when you're going through stuff, like, and you're feeling at your worst, just tell me and I'm your man, I'm there for you. You know, spinning that phrase, like, I'm your man, into a love song. And, like, I didn't have, like, a specific either person or set of experiences when I wrote it, but I did have just that general feeling of wanting to be there for somebody. And so how do you take that feeling and make it into something that feels authentic and real? That's kind of my way through it, I guess. Because my own life is just kind of, and I don't mean this, like, too self-deprecatingly, but it's pretty boring. Like, I don't have, like, a set of, like, emotional extremes that I go through. Like, I'm not one of those, like, that image of, like, the tortured musician, like, writing songs from their heart, you know? That doesn't really, my emotional spectrum doesn't go through that. So what I try,
which is a good thing,
right? I think so. You know, and
just so everyone out there knows, that's a good kind of way to be as an artist, not the other way.
Yeah, I'm relatively well adjusted, like, all things considered. So, man, my goal is to, like, find a melody and a thing that makes me go, oh, I remember that feeling that I have, or just that general thing, and to try and make it universal. And then, on the other hand, though, there is the odd tune that, like, is directly out of my life. 1 in 50 for one of those, and those end up usually being, like, some of my very best, but it's just so hard to directly pull that out, you know. So I guess, long story short, I kind of
for the most part, no.
For the most part, no. It's usually, like, I approach a song as a piece of, like, fiction, but that I feel things through, or that I've felt, and try to, you know. Every time I try to write a song, like, it comes out really forced.
Oh yeah,
or, like, you know. And it's like, oh, that's, you know, really on the nose.
So this is the kind of discussion I really like to have with artists, because it's really interesting to me to think about, like, how people go about writing.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, like, I think that should be interesting to other people. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, if you're talking to somebody about how they go about what they do best, you know, no matter who it is, an electrician, whatever.
Sure.
They can usually give you a very specific way that they go about things, you know, like, and not everybody's the same.
Right.
You know, different musicians, different electricians, different plumbers, they go about things completely differently.
Yeah.
But they get the job done, and it's always interesting to see, like, where people's brains are when they write, because it's just one of those things where I'm the same way as you for the most part. Like, I don't necessarily write. I would say the other way, though, like, where most of my stuff is from my own life.
Gotcha.
But I wouldn't say that it's just because I've had, like, so many ups and downs. Like, I'm a pretty well-adjusted artist as well. I'm not one of those people that has, like, a lot of depression problems or anything like that. Right. So, like, but I've just found a way to bring that out in my music
That's awesome. Yeah.
And weirdly though, like sometimes I don't try to, and it just becomes so much exactly what my life is.
Gotcha.
Where you're like, oh wow, okay, I didn't write that specifically about that, but like it is that. You know, like that's just where my mind is so much that's what that song becomes. You
Indeed. I've had that happen where you write something and then like 6 months later you go, I kind of lived what I ended up writing.
Right.
And so I always get worried whenever I write like a really sad one or something. I'm like, oh shit. Like, well, but so that maybe that's why I try to write the happier love songs now. I'm like, this is great. Keep this train going. But that's super cool, man. And like you said, a lot of ways to skin a cat. I find that really interesting as well because, you know, we all find the way that works best for us. And like, they're all equal. It's like, however you get there is however you get there. And like, and there's a little bit of both, of course, because like, you know, it's not like you're 100% one and none of the other. Like Justin's writing can be very like, Justin Larkin can be very direct and very from his own life. But then he can take a tune about like somebody he meets and write a complete picture of them. And like Devlin Pierce he writes in a very kind of direct confessional way. That's more like the early singer-songwriter stuff that's very confessional and very from their own life. And like he's unflinchingly like on that. And it's really admirable, but I could never come close to doing that, you know what I mean? But it works, and he writes great songs in his own way, and I try to write them in my way, and you write great songs in your own way. So it is cool to get that vibe. And then sometimes you're just trying to write like a vibe. You know, you're trying to write a genre or a mood or...
Sometimes you write a musical thing, and you just base everything around that.
And you fill it in, yeah.
You don't even... You're like, it doesn't really matter what this song's about.
Yeah.
It just needs to fit the mood.
Exactly.
You know, and so lyrically, you don't even think like, man, I need to write...
right.
something amazing lyrically. Like this song just needs a mood, and like I would say that our song that's like that the most is Fire. I don't know if you've heard that song, but I would say that that's like our song that's very much, I didn't write lyrics that mattered at all. If you go listen to that song, like while they make sense, they don't really matter at all. You know, they it's just a vibe.
Yeah.
That song is a vibe, and that's all that matters. You know,
Absolutely.
like for certain songs, that is what it is. And that's the beauty of music, is just like the subjectiveness. I can't speak. The subjectiveness of it. Gosh, I just did it twice.
This whiskey's great, guys.
Yeah, it is. But that's the beauty of music, is just being able to do what you do. And like some people, you know, there's very much structured songs out there, especially a lot of the pop music.
Oh yeah.
There's such like a mathematical way to write it, speaking of math.
Yeah.
To where they think of it specifically as, this is what it is,
right.
You know? And I don't think that, it's not as fun to listen to for me. Like, I like hearing songs that have different kind of vibes, that have different, like, layouts, that do different things, like,
totally.
You know, maybe there'll be a jam at the beginning or whatever. Like, you're just completely changing the vibe of the song that way.
Absolutely. And another thing there is, like, well, you know, I'll hear a lot of, like, contemporary, and part of that too is like, well, just had like this big bubble of thought, but setting that aside, like one thing about that's really interesting is, oh damn it, I lost it. Oh, I got it now. One thing that I care a lot about in that way is like tone, and I don't mean like, you know, guitar tone in the way that like guitar players nerd out about it, like, oh yeah, man, it's like a, you know, but just like the character of the thing you're listening to, if it's really soft or it's really fuzzy, and the way that those different textures, that's like a thing that I'm really into. And so like interestingly textured music or stuff that sounds really like it's like the listening equivalent of like putting on a weighted blanket, you know, that's the stuff that really grabs me. And so how can you do that with sound? And that goes hand in hand with changing the arrangements and, you know, lending the music toward that. And the reason I like a lot of that old jazzy stuff, like, is because it has that certain texture and that certain vibe, like Chet Baker, like Nat King Cole, you know, that stuff just makes it has a certain, it's like putting on a blanket. And,
well, a more popular version of it, I would say, it's like a Fleetwood Mac. Or
yeah,
like,
totally.
Where it's like a vibe.
Yeah.
You know, like it's very textured. There's just a vibe.
Yeah.
And they have different feels of like textures in the song that make it that.
And you find new things like over time.
Theo Katzman's one too. I don't know if you listen to him much, but
totally.
He's that same kind of vibe. Like he puts a lot of texture into his songs.
Yeah, and I love that stuff. And you know, it's just I guess it's a horses for courses, like what you're into kind of thing. I know as a songwriter, like part of it too is just like like when you write a song, you think of yourself as a machine, right? And it's like, okay, I'm a machine that can produce notes from like here to here, and I have a certain feeling in my guitar playing. So like, how do I unify those in the best way that I can? And that dictates a lot too. And you know, for me, it was like, okay, these are my limitations. Boom, 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 and not in a negative way, but just in a okay, like, you know, I've got this kind of voice that lends itself toward this, and not this. You know, maybe I'd like to be able to do that, but man, it ain't happening. So how can I maximize? I guess I'm starting to sound like a math professor, but like,
but it's true though.
You know, and that's another thing that like, and to do that in a healthy way, because there is an emotional roller coaster in between those poles, but like, yeah, man, like that's a big part of it for me too. Is just going, okay, what do I got? How do I use it the best I can? And then, you know, just try and make people smile and maybe thump. You know,
people that are good at what they do. Understand their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, totally.
Legitimately understand. And like, you know, you have to be confident in what you're good at, and you have to be understanding of what you're not good at in order to be the best at what you can do.
Indeed.
You know what I mean?
Indeed.
And I think sometimes people mistake confidence in that kind of respect for, you know, hubris. Like where you know, you're somebody that you know what you're good at.
Sure.
And so you might mention that, you might say that, you might, you know, do things that, and some people see that as overconfidence or even cockiness.
Right.
Where it's not necessarily that. It's just, you know what you're good at. People that don't know what they're good at are those people that, you know, become the she bangs people on, you know, on American Idol. Like, you don't know you're a bad singer. Like, it's just a thing. Like, you just have to know those things. I learned after way too long of playing guitar solos and trying to play guitar solos and pretending like I was good at it, that's not what I'm best at. And so, like, for me, I do less of that. Like, I'll still do it at Luna shows. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to, though. Like, it's not what I'm good at. It's just what our music kind of used to be. So, like, we do it still. But now that I have Drew Axley on saxophone,
sure,
he's a god. I don't have to do as much, you know, and it makes it so I don't worry as much about that, because I don't have a lot in that bag of tricks. I'm not a lead guitar player. That is not me. While I can do it, I'm not actually a great lead guitar player. So it's just one of those things where you understanding where your strengths are with your voice and like what direction to take that, it's important to have that.
Well, speaking of, man, I had that same experience with the group I'm playing in right now, the Paper Moons, where we've got, so I sing and I play guitar. We've got Mike Williamson on bass, and Corey Johnson plays either trumpet or flugelhorn, which is like a warmer trumpet, and then Ryan Dunn on tenor sax. So got a great trumpet player and a great sax player. And then starting out, like we would structure a song, and like the guys would maybe do a solo, and they're very graceful about like keeping it pretty concise and like not like 6 minutes later,
not noodling.
Yeah, like they're focused, you know, players, and so they would do their thing, and then I'd be like, oh, it might be fun for like me to throw in a solo as well, and then like it's like if you need a visual for this, it's like they get done playing, and I'm like, oh cool, I'm gonna do it. You know, and I just like, I'm like, oh, that was dumb, but then you have to own it and eat it, and and I was like, okay, so like maybe in this format, like it's not really necessary, and it was all like, it was well intended, like the soloing, and like there was no negativity, but I guess I quickly realized like, oh cool, like for this set of things, like there's not much that I can really contribute on that front, so I'm going to keep it nice and tight and try to create as many opportunities as I can for the guys to really shine. And when we're practicing and having fun, I might like, okay, guys, I'm gonna,
Yeah.
But like,
how you get better.
Yeah, I learned a thing quickly on about like, okay, like you don't have to chase it. You can just kind of, if it's natural, go for it. And it would be different if I was playing like with just a bass player and a drummer. Then like I take more solos, or do whatever. Or look at gigs. We both use loopers. I saw recently, maybe a week or two ago, you looped something, and.
Yeah, it was a new original tune.
That's right. And like, I take a looper to gigs because it like fills time well and it gives me an opportunity to get better, where it's like, oh, that sucked. Next one though, it's like, oh, that was really good, And people, I don't know. So far, I don't get a lot of remarks about the soloing or the looping, but I'm like waiting for it. I'm like, validate me. But like, but in that environment, I've learned to keep it tasteful. And
yeah.
So like, I'm like, that's the perfect place to get better because like, I'm not gonna fly out and do like, who's a crazy guitar, Steve Vai or something. I'm not gonna do that. But
you got the hair for it,
right? Yeah.
You got to get the fan up.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's what he does. He's got the fan going. That just makes him look cooler.
Right. But yeah, man, it's good to find those. Avenues to get better because if you approach things from a mindset of growth, it's way more constructive than the other way. But learning how to do that also takes time and like like the conversation that you and I are having, we could not have had like 10 years ago as players or musicians. Like you know what I mean? Like, and that's not a bad thing, but it's just like you had to develop and figure that out, and then like at this point we can remark upon it.
10 years ago, I thought I was the greatest guitar player ever.
Oh, same.
And I was so terrible. Now I'm pretty good, and I don't think I'm good. Like that's
same. Yeah.
It's one of those things. Like you start to gather an understanding of what your limitations are.
Indeed, man.
And that is a huge thing.
And thank God for our significant others putting up with it, because man, like just the other day, I was like, babe, I don't think I'm good at guitar. And Emily's just like, okay, well, give it an hour. It's just like, do you still think you're bad at guitar? I was like, I think I'm a little bit better. And she's like, oh, good. Like she just puts up with it, man. And she knows when to tune me out and let me just work through it. And I'm ever so grateful.
You watch an 8-year-old just destroy a guitar on like YouTube or something, and you're like, man, I'm terrible. Like I can't play that. Right. What am I doing with my life? And then I think about it and I'm like, but I can play Stop This Train by John Mayer really well. Right. And that song is hard. I think about those kind of things and I'm like, you know what? Never mind. I'm pretty decent. But like, There's a lot of moments where I see, Richie Rebooth. Watch him play and I'm like, Richie, God, I hate you. I'm going to go practice. And it is what it is. I don't hate him, by the way. Richie is a badass.
Right. Same, like every time I watch Stevie Newman play, I'm just...
Stevie Newman's another one, yeah.
Oh, and...
Dave Painter is one in town.
Absolutely.
Honestly, like you in your chordal stuff and your finger picking is huge. Like that's something that I've always struggled with personally, is that. And then like Justin with his, playing drums while playing guitar while, doing his thing. Like people like that, like Molly Healy,
Right.
She was my last guest, but every time I watch her do all of her looping stuff and play like 8 different instruments.
Right.
Randall Shreve, same thing. He's also been on here recently.
Right.
Like that kind of stuff, I'm just like, okay. I have a lot of work to do.
Well, I'm just like, man, I have ADD. Like that's too much. I couldn't, I wouldn't be able to focus. But yeah, I mean, and that's totally cool. Everybody's got their own. I got a funny Justin story. Played many gigs with Justin.
You've got plenty of
fun. Oh, fun! I've got a lot, but played many gigs with him over the years, and we were doing a duo gig, and kind of seated like this, playing, and he was playing lead on a tune and playing percussion, and I was singing and driving it, and then he breaks a string in the middle of playing, and so he is keeping the beat,
changing the
string and playing a little bit at a time, and then like he's got it right back on, and then he's like back in it, and I was like, you are a superhuman, what?
I have a story kind of like that, but I was just singing. I wasn't playing guitar, so that's even more ridiculous. But there was one time at the Outland, I can't remember, it was like a Halloween show or something.
Yeah.
We were playing, and I broke a string, and I was changing it while singing Dear Prudence.
Oh my God.
I'm just sitting there changing the strings, singing Dear Prudence, and the whole audience is like, oh my God! I'm like, I mean, you know, like singing and doing it's different though. Like playing guitar and changing a string, like that's,
it's wacky.
It's insane.
Yeah, man.
And when you break a string, it usually kind of brings stuff out of tune.
Yeah.
You know, like a little bit. So like that's even more wacky.
And like, dude, yeah, like my restringing method, like, I mean, it takes me like, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes, because, you know, generally with my like playing, I've got a super light touch, so strings last a long time, and then when it's time to change them, I sit down and I do it all, you know, a certain way. And like, he's mastered the art of just like, you know, 2 minutes in, 2 minutes out.
He's like this all the time.
Right,
He's always breaking strings.
Oh,
I feel
totally.
like he breaks a string every single show.
I think he does, and it's amazing. Like, and and so with that has come the adaptation of like, okay, I gotta like change this real fast. And like, I envy that because I have to make coffee, sit down, put it on the table, you know, like check the, you know, do this, do that, and then, I'm so like prim and proper about it, but he's just like raw and amazing.
Oh yeah,
but it's all like, you know, suited to, pardon me, who we are, and I think those differences are like what make give you that kind of like what's the word? I don't know. Is there like a gender neutral form of fraternal, like that communal sense of like,
yeah,
everybody's got their own thing, everybody's really good at it, and like at our best we really appreciate each other for it, and it's not a thing of division, it's a thing of unity. It's like, holy shit, he can do that.
It's a respect thing.
He can do that, you know, like, and it's super cool.
The musicians that don't just have that respect, I feel like, are the ones that are not playing gigs. I'm not trying to be a jerk about that.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like that respect is something that like everyone can tell that you have that. You know, and if you don't have that in the music industry, people usually don't respect you either. You know, exactly. and that is what it is. It's because, you know, this kind of thing. There's not a lot of industries where people are like, let's talk to. Right. You know, these people that we're in direct competition with, quote unquote.
Right.
I wouldn't, you know, there's not a lot of industries where I'd be like, hey, Joe, take this show that somebody offered me.
Right.
You know, like, this industry is like that, though. You find people that you respect, and you go, like, right here. Yeah. Like, and that's the beauty of the industry.
It helps everybody out, yeah. Like, it's nice.
And the people that you decide to pick from and to be around in your industry.
Of course, yeah.
Because there are, like I said, I'm not saying that there's not that many people in this town that are not like that I know, like as musicians. Like most musicians in this town are very, you know, cool and graceful and like giving of their time and energy. Right. And like, I can't think of people specifically where I'm like, man, that person really, you know, like for the most part, this town is pretty full of people that know that they're a musician, and it's like helping other musicians is a huge part of being one.
Totally.
You know?
I agree, man. And, you know, part of that is, I don't know, you know, for me, how do I even, like, for me personally, so like, I'm an only child, and like, I tend toward being an introvert, I guess, and I guess I tend toward like solitude naturally, and so I'm not like Mr. Friday Night, go out and paint the town red or anything like that. So having like-minded people that I can respect and be friendly with and like have positive feelings, you know, in both ways towards is a really gratifying thing for somebody like me who like in another arena of life, if I didn't have music, it would be harder for me to like make connections with people and to feel connected. Yeah. And that's a big reason I do it, is just like, this is a thing that helps me make sense of like being a person, and like you can give and take that both ways, and that's really like cool, because how many things in life do you get that from? I mean, there are others, but like,
well, other industries, like I feel like a lot of times people do it just to make money.
Of course. And
like and you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but like being in different industries, including like personal training, like I feel like a lot of people want to make friends with you, but it's for something later. You know, like it's not because like I hear the ideas that come out of your brain and I go, man, I've never thought about things that way. You know, like in the respect of music, like you hear what is inside somebody whenever somebody writes a song.
Sure.
And that's the beauty of writing music is like,
Absolutely.
I'm hearing what is coming from you creatively. And it's not just music, but art in general. Art is just like that. You know, like that's the beauty of being an artist in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, it's not like a thing where it's like, oh, if you're not an artist, you're not cool. You know, like we're not saying that. It's more just like it's an understand. I just want people to understand sometimes that like there is that in the artist world where like that respect is. It's just a weird thing, man. Like being able to put yourself out there and have people accept that, and like other people be like respecting of it and like think it's cool.
Right.
Like it's something that it gives you like the biggest high whenever you can have that. You know?
It does, man. And you know, like I don't know who I'd be without it. Like, and like the more I look at it, it's like, man, it was inevitable that I was going to do this. Like, I mean, you know, I think a lot of people, they pick up a guitar when they're, let's say 10 through 12 or something like that. And like, it's like a thing and like they enjoy it or whatever, but it gets away from them and they do something else in life. Mm-hmm. And like, all well and good, there's no negativity in that. Mm-mm. But I was one of those people that like, I felt something like more intrinsic and I was like, I have to like keep doing this and I don't even like have a choice. And on a bad day, I'm like, why did I ever pick up this thing? Oh, I get all self-pitying and like morose, but then
you play piano.
Yeah.
Or you play whatever else. You know, you try something. I mean, that's what I do anyway.
Yeah. Or like a thing I've learned to do is like when I'm in the tunnel with it, that's precisely the time when I need to go like do something that's just pure fun and like not at all connected and just literally get away from it as much as I can and find. Well, incidentally, like Emily and I, we started watching The Mandalorian. She's seen it already, but like I missed the boat, man. I'm 3 years late to the party. So
I haven't
like,
seen it.
It's awesome. Like, and I'm not a big Star Wars guy. Like
same.
I'm saying, yeah, like you know, nothing. Don't hate it, but like just
yeah.
But it legitimately is awesome. And so I've been like, oh man, this is like so great. So I've had that to look forward to. Or like when it gets warm, going floating, you know, getting on a kayak again. Will be a great thing. It's easy to get buckled down in the winter, but like
it is
when I'm at my most like music, I find like okay, Joe, get the hell away from it for like a day or two, and then when you come back to it, it's like oh shit, here's a chord I've never played. Cool, like and oh shit, I'm falling in love with it again, you know, and then you're right back in. So, but that's true with anything in life. Is like learning how to not overdo it. But we have a compulsion to like kind of overdo it because we love it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So that work-life balance, I guess, is what you call that. I'm learning that as I go.
Well, that's why I took January off because I was like,
yeah,
I need time, and I needed time to be creative again because playing gigs all the time, you know, it's hard.
It is.
People don't get how hard it is. You're not making that much money for what you're doing, in the respect of like. You're entertaining like a whole bar of people,
right?
You know, and you're not making really that much money, and you're doing it for 3 to 4 hours as one person sometimes, you know, and you also drive there, and it's a tough thing to do. Sometimes we do multiple gigs in a day, and like that is a tough thing to do, and like people don't really, I don't think, grasp like how difficult that is.
Yeah.
And you have to do it because that's how you get paid. You know, like you have to do it. Like especially somebody like Justin, like he's like that's what he does, you know, for a living. So he has to do it. He gets paid that way.
Right.
You know, and it's one of those things where whenever you're playing all those gigs, it's really easy to get lost in that. And you completely forget the creativity of it because you have this thing that you've practiced. And so, like, it's well practiced, and that's what you do, and then the creativity goes away.
Yeah, I've struggled with that over the past 6 months or so.
So taking time away sometimes, it's nice. It's
absolutely
like, got a month off, and I wrote 4 songs in that month.
Yeah.
And, like, it's beautiful because you don't even think about it.
Yeah. I dug that you did that, and I was like, that's such a great idea, man.
Because it's necessary.
Absolutely. I've been so wrapped up in, like, getting this album done, which... We just finished like tracking, like laying down instruments and stuff in like December, maybe late December. Mm-hmm. So like my mind was always fixated on like these, 13 songs that we whittled down to 10. And like that's a big chunk of my creative brain. And then going out and gigging and, you have a certain amount of tunes that like, are going to work. Like these are my old faithfuls. And then you want to try new stuff, but like there's a certain creativity in that. Mm-hmm. And then there's the service part of it. And then, there's trying to get new gigs and spending time doing that, and then there's this chunk of like energy and time left over for your own exploration, and I somewhere along the way kind of like let that dwindle a little bit, and I know it'll come back. I mean, I have faith that it will, but it sucks when you're like, when you get to that realization and you're like, oh man, I gotta like get that chunk widened relative to everything else. And it will, but it's super cool that you proactively were like, I gotta get that bigger.
Well,
and, you know,
part of it was I wasn't getting gigs that much.
well, same.
And so I was like, like, I'm just not going to take any gigs, and I'm going to just take it off.
Yeah.
Because I was having a hard time, and I was like, I could take some gigs, like I could try to get gigs harder, and I might be able to get some gigs, but I was like, why? Why be ridiculous about it? Wintertime, less people come out in the winter usually anyway.
Right.
There's a chance of weather problems causing major issues for shows, like with snow and ice and everything else.
Indeed, man.
And it just gets to the point where you schedule all these things and you promote all these things, and then you show up to the show and nobody's there because it snowed or freezing rained or whatever else, and you get to the point where you're like, maybe I should I'm going to do that every year now. I'm going to take January off.
Totally.
And I mean, unless there's something that's a big deal that comes along.
Right.
But otherwise, that's my plan. And, maybe I'll tour, in the warmer parts of the country in that time at some point. Maybe, but for now, that's kind of what I've told myself. It's just a good way. I think it'll be a good way for me to maintain that creativity at some point and be very specifically in tune with that creativity.
Totally. That's brilliant, man. And just to tack on to that, pre-COVID, we had Papo's and a couple of other spots that generally were better at floating us through, January, say, a downtime, but okay, maybe it's a gamble that this will happen, but it's 5 minutes that way. So if it doesn't happen, it's fine.
Exactly.
But now that there's less of those places, and we miss you, Papo's. Please,
love
make it happen again.
Love Papo's.
Right.
That's great.
Those and here's another macro point to this is being able to adapt is a big part of playing music and being a musician, and so that's I think a commendable and strong adaptation is okay, January, fuck January. I'm gonna focus on me and use that as a restorative time. That's really smart, and I think I'm gonna make a resolution.
Something of that sort. Yeah.
Because I miss that rush of getting some really strong new ideas or tunes. Because I have miniature ideas that I have dragged along for such a long time that they have depleted themselves, and I'm when you overcook an idea and it has no juice left. That's where I'm at with 3 or 4 different pieces of music. Where I'm I can't wait till I get one that hooks me and takes me along with it. And I know it will happen. It's just a matter of waiting,
Somebody texted me.
I was right at the end of that, oh yeah, I should do that. Bing.
I can never ever get that to stop dinging during these, and it's really frustrating. I'm sure there's a way. I'm not the most computer savvy human. But anyway, dude, that's awesome. Okay, so we like to talk about local businesses too. What are some of your favorite local spots to go in general? Just for, whatever thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, we're trying to promote good old Iechyd whiskey. Obviously, get some. Go to the Cellar. Talk to Brandon Moore. Actually, is one of their head
right on
distillers, which is
hell yeah,
which is awesome. Great. I didn't know if you knew that, but he used to work with Copper Run, and he works there now, and
incidentally, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, he's one of their head distillers. But I was just curious what some of your favorite local business kind of places to go are that you're man, this is my spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And incidentally, I'm headed to the Cellar today to dial in a single mic setup for a solo acoustic or intimate acoustic gigs. Mike asked me to come in and ring out the room and do all that, so I'm looking forward to that. Cool.
That's cool.
Go to the Cellar. But
Mike's great, and the Cellar is obviously they're sponsoring this and with Iechyd.
Right.
They are a part of that. So go to the Cellar. Obviously, we will promote that because we also just love it. It's not just because they're sponsoring it.
Absolutely. But dude, just in general, I mean, we are kind of blessed. I think people forget how blessed we are, to have good local stuff. So on the brewery front, of course, well, any brewery like is great. You know that we got great breweries. I mean, I think we both played at just about all of them. They're all welcoming and friendly, and like they all have great beer. And if you don't drink, they have great other options like kombucha. You know, love Great Escape. Pardon me, Hold Fast is great. Like, you know, Tie and Timber. They're all solid. So I'm just going to lump that into one category because I can dissect them.
Yeah, the local breweries. Yeah, of course.
Right. Yeah. We're blessed with local restaurants. Like, we get to be foodies. And
so many of them.
Yeah, like, this isn't music related at all, but, like, man, Rama Thai is just, like, you know, that's a big one in our household. And can I ramble about food for just a brief minute? There's
Okay, so the thing about this is I want a conversation whenever I have these. Yeah. You know, I don't want it to just be, like, I ask a couple questions, you answer them. Right. Like, it's a conversation. You make some things your thing.
Oh, for sure. In the Chesterfield Village, there is an amazing ramen place. It's called Omo. I think it's how you pronounce it. O-M-O.
I've heard of it.
And their kind of subtitle is Japanese soul food. And they have, like, various ramen dishes, dude. And, like, amazing. I hadn't really had, like real ramen. And we randomly on a snow day just ended up in there and, like, it's so good. Like that's a great spot. So that's an amazing place that I hope more people will check out.
Yeah.
Papa's, of course, is amazing. Like
Papa's, yeah.
Pizza, like, and even setting aside the music part, like the food is so good.
Yeah, the food's great.
And oh man, let me think here about other just local places that are.
Maybe one more. Give me one more that you can think of, maybe.
Sure. My brain. And like I know as soon as like we're over there, I'm like, oh yeah, boom, 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 boom. Shit.
I'll give you a couple and like
go for it. Yeah.
Maybe play off.
Buy me some time, man.
So I'll just mention two today. My hats that I've been buying recently, this one and the one that's right behind you there. I get them at Just for Him. I don't know if you've been there.
Just for Him rules. Yeah.
It smells like cigars. So if you don't like the smell of cigars, you probably won't love going in there. But for what they have, like they have really awesome hats. They have a lot of cool like guy stuff, you know, like.
Absolutely.
And again, none of these businesses are giving us anything for this. This is more just. I always want to promote local as much as possible. So you know, if you want to get a hat, like as a guy, they have a really good selection of hats. Go check it out. I know hats never used to be my thing. Until I hurt my eye. It's kind of a way to protect myself, you know, like especially with drinking. Yeah. It's just a way to like not have anything happen to my eye. Like if I run into something that's gonna hit the brim of my hat, you know. But I also I've kind of embraced it and I like it. So like Just for Him is a place that I've really fallen for recently.
Hell yeah.
And then Hakar's Bazaar. I don't know if you've been there.
Yes.
It's like a mid-century kind of like, you know, furniture and
on Commercial Street, right?
Furniture and mostly furniture and like older stuff like disco balls, and they have like you know record players kind of like this guy, you know, the console kind of record players like old school, and then they have like older clothing and stuff like that. But like that place is cool. I like those kind of retro kind of like.
Me too.
Those places are just really awesome to go look at stuff, even if I don't buy anything. It's just really cool to go in those places, you know?
I like to touch base with that vibe. And Commercial Street has a lot of good.
You have that vibe.
Oh, well, you know.
And also, like, the size of you as a human fits that time.
Exactly.
Me, every time I put on the clothes, I'm like, ooh, too big for this, you know? Like, it is what it is.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But you've got the vibe for that. Like, perfect vibe for it.
Yeah, man. Like, it's just, there's a lot of great...
And I don't need shoulder pads either. they're built in.
You got them. Yeah, totally. Speaking of vibes, man, there's a lot of great chill places. Like I love Vina Cellars is a place I play at regularly. That's great. It's a casual kind of wine bar. There's Cellar and Plate, which is another casual kind of wine bar. There's one. It's on Sunshine. Emily really likes it. I'm trying to think of the name. They've built this into their branding, but like I think it's a couple who like divorced, but they run a business together, and like and they make that part of it, and it's kind of funny, like they're in on the joke kind of thing. I can't remember the name of it. That place is well liked, but we've got more and more of these like chill spots, and that like bodes really well for guys that go out and play music acoustically. that's a great market or a great crowd for us to be able to do a different facet of what we do.
Yeah.
Because like
we're not doing the party songs and
right, and it's cool to do that, but to have the more contexts that you can place us in, it's really great for us, and it's satisfying.
It is, yeah. It is. It really is. I mean, it's cool that we can play those kind of things.
Yeah.
And we can play, more rowdy bars sometimes. Like, I've recently become known as the getting jiggy with it guy. And it's because of my looper pedal getting jiggy with it thing that I do. And recently, people have been coming to my shows and been like, when are you going to do getting jiggy with it? I'm like, man, can you ask me to do it? Don't get me wrong, I love doing the song.
Sure.
But it's gotten to that point where I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to get known as that. And it's not fun,
Right.
And so it's really nice to play those kind of places. Like you're saying, those chill places where you can kind of
yeah.
And you're more that way anyway. You're more of a chill musician
sure.
anyway. Like mostly your vibe is very jazzy and stuff. So.
And I can turn it up when I need to.
And I've heard you. What was the one that I saw whenever you played Shuffle at one time where you did the rap or whatever? What was the song that you did? I was trying to remember.
Shit. Well, I've done Baby Got Back.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Baby Got Back.
There's a couple more that are like that, And, and that's great. It's fun, And
it is.
Or an old pastime of mine as a musician. This is where I kind of cut my teeth. Is going out and playing dive bars in small rural towns and playing old country and western music, that. Justin and I, that was a big part of our first forays into just being musicians and that kind of next tier, of doing it, and or that was where we found our footing a lot, and I still love that stuff. I played a wedding at a dive bar in Marshfield a few weeks ago. How many times in what other line of work do you get to do a wedding in a dive bar? For the loveliest people, and it was super cool. It might sound a little but it was wonderful, and it was a magical little experience, but it's a very Missouri thing, is my point.
Sounds awesome to me.
Dude, yeah, it was just Missouri as hell, and in the best way possible.
Some of the weddings that I've been hired for are the best. I don't know. There was a wedding I played last year. Tori and Dane are their name. I won't mention their last names because I don't know if they want to have that on there. But Tori and Dane are their name, and they hired me, and they've been so gracious as human beings, and they every time they come to town, they try to catch a show, and we become friends, and that's another cool thing about being a musician. Is the friendships you can make through that. It's cool. We got dinner with them recently when they were in town, and that kind of thing. So it's just cool, those friendships where it's people let you stay at their house, they want you to play their wedding. Literally, you feel kind of part of the family. Another couple, they're the Robs. They probably don't care that I say their name. That's why I said
it.
I won't say the rest of it, but they are awesome human beings, and they're mountain home, and they've literally basically taken me in as a family member. Their kids almost see me as an uncle or something. I don't know, and it's just really cool, man. It's cool, making those kind of things, and it's just from I played music, they vibed with it, we vibed with each other as human beings, and it's just cool to have that,
Totally, and that actually kind of brings a good opportunity to make a macro point. Is I think so. Sometimes people, I'm sure you've experienced this, where they will think that your goal as somebody who plays music and sings is to get huge, or whatever. They're like, oh man, it's your dream, right? To get to do this. I call that just. Almost just swore, but I guess we can swear. Fuck it.
You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, it just came out
it's not for kids. This isn't for kids,
right?
Kids can watch it, but
I think people conflate. They mix up show business and the music industry, capital letters, with just being a musician and living a musical life. And none of us would complain if something got huge and we were able to, do that or whatever. But actually, frankly, I've decided I really I wouldn't want that if you offered it to me.
I wouldn't want to be the Beatles.
If you offered me a better chance to pay my electric bill, cool.
Mm-hmm.
But or a more consistent way to do that, awesome. But the big that, is not that's not in my head when I wake up and pick up a guitar for. What I pick up a guitar for is to continue to have those experiences with people that you just outlined.
Exactly.
And and to be able to look back and go, man, I can get all up in my head about how much talent I do or don't have, or but then I can go over here and I can just go, man, look, like I met these people through doing this. This door opened and I got to do this. Like I got to have all these awesome experiences that like validated my life, and that's fucking awesome.
It is.
You know,
it is awesome, man. It really is.
That's way better than like this notion that like we're all gunning for America's Got Talent or whatever you might, you know, or that thing, and playing that particular game. It's like we're kind of blessed to not have to swim in like shark infested waters in that way.
Well, in that way,
yeah.
I mean, we definitely do, but
oh sure, we do.
Especially if we get to that point. Yeah, I mean, if you get to the point of where you're, you know, starting to, there's just so much involved. And people are wanting to take advantage of your talent and whatever else. That's part of why I wouldn't want to be there either.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be an independent artist that could sell out places like the Galois.
Sure.
That would be the peak that I want to that I've been searching for. That could play festivals, sell out places like the Galois.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of thing would be awesome.
My dream, like just pure music terms, or pure business terms, would be to play small theaters. Like that would be my ideal. Like
small theaters would be amazing.
Absolutely, and like small clubs and etc. But like, yeah, like that's the grail for me too, as far as
selling out the Galois would be awesome. Like that size of a venue, like 1,000-seat venue. You're selling out 1,200-seat, whatever the Galois. I think it's 1,200 or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
Either way, you're selling out like around 1,000-seat kind of venues.
Indeed.
Like that would be amazing, and you would be able to make a good living.
Totally. Not
a ridiculous one, but a good living doing that. And I mean, I've known people that sell those kind of places out, and like they don't make a ridiculous living. Like but you might make up to $100,000 a year doing that.
Sure.
You know, and that's more than we're making.
Right.
And so it's, you know, that, you know, money wise that would be great, but like in the respect of like just having an understanding of what you're doing and what you love and that passion and connecting with that large of a swath of people.
Totally.
That is awesome. But larger than that, I don't know if I could handle it.
No, yeah.
Honestly. That would be too much.
There's a point, like, you know, I'm obsessed with sound and audio and like tone and all that. There's a point of like vastly diminishing returns, like in terms of the quality of audio that you're able to deliver, or at least that I would be comfortable with. I mean, not that I think that my own personal product is exportable to that big of a...
Yeah.
But if you did, like, you lose so much in terms of, like... So, for example, just to be a nerd, if we, like, let's say we're doing the Galois or something, it's like, oh, dude, we could use, like, ribbon mics on stage. We could use condensers. Like, we could really deliver like, a sound experience that is, like, rich.
Mm-hmm.
And we could do it, like, with monitoring, or we could use in-ears, or, like... Insider baseball, sorry guys, but like you could deliver really quality audio in these beautiful rooms that are designed for it, you know.
You can't do that in a stadium.
Exactly. And like and of course, you know, everybody accepts that that's, you know, it's not the point of a stadium, but like that first thing I mentioned, I care about so much more than like, you know, the notion of playing to like a sea of like people. And don't get me wrong, that's badass in its own right, you know, like
it is.
I love the Rolling Stones, or like I love those bigger than life.
But your
things.
Style though,
yeah,
I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, not at all.
And like, you know, our band, like to a point, we could play at festivals, but stadium tours, like the thing is, like being like a stadium musician is not a thing for most musicians. I mean, we're not all U2, you know, like we're not stadium bands, like that's not, or the Who, or you know, like these bands, like the music that they have is very stadium oriented. Like you can play it in a stadium and people are gonna be like, you know, like our music, probably not. No, people are gonna be like, what the hell are they playing?
Right.
You know, like what is this? You
exactly.
know, like,
it's just fine.
it is what it is, and you just have to find that. Okay, I got one more thing.
Yep.
Tell me something just silly, weird, something most people don't know about you, something that like can just really, you know, like where you're like, this is my weirdness.
Oh man, I got somebody.
Just pick one that you think like defines that weird for you.
Right.
Because I know you're weird. We've been around each other plenty. I'm weird. You're weird. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
It's a good thing.
Oh man, let me think of that. The funny thing is, like, if Emily was here, she would instantly be like, oh. Yeah, and then I'd be like, yeah, that.
Significant others always can.
Let's go with that one. Oh shoot, man. Let me think about it.
While you do that, I'm going to pour just a little bit of rye.
Indeed.
Speaking of, one more time, Iechyd rye whiskey.
Let's see here.
I'm going to keep saying that.
Oh, well, I got one, and it actually is quasi related to music, but and audio, I guess. But Emily laughs at me so much. So like I'm really even if I didn't play music, I would have really my ears, like I have weird hearing sensitivity, and like it's neither a bad nor a good thing, but it's baked into my particular biological cake, you know. My mom. Well, I'll get to. My mother was like blind, basically functionally blind for the first 6 or 7 or 8 years of her life. Like, could barely see at all. And what that did was it made her hearing incredible. You know, because that was how she navigated the world as a child.
Yeah.
And my dad, I can't remember, but he also, like, owing to his development as a boy, developed really good hearing. So both of my parents, I believe, I'm not a biologist or whatever, but or a doctor, but they just passed on like really sensitive ears to me, which is a blessing and a curse. And I was like almost deaf when I was a kid because I had eustachian tube clogging. But anyway, point being, sound bothers me more than it bothers a lot of people, or like bad sound or whatever. And also, I'm just interested in like sound, so I think about it, and I will just chip in to Emily with like. So we stopped at a gas station in Ozark, and I went into the restroom. And I don't know about you, man, but like you push the button, the air dryer things, blow dryers. Mm-hmm. I hate that sound because it's like 90 dB of like 4K, just right in your face.
Well, it's like a massive like vacuum cleaner almost, but it's like the opposite of a vacuum cleaner.
And so I have an app on my phone that like will give me a spectrum readout, like a frequency readout, you know. And I will just take measurements of things, and Emily will catch me doing it all the time, and I'll be like. And so I had mentioned, so we got out of the bathroom, and I was like, that blow dryer's the worst. It's like 4K, you know, like just 90 dB. And she's like, what are you even talking about? I was like, I memeasured the blow dryer, and
you're like, it's like a really loud truck. Or like really loud music.
It's like a chainsaw,
basically, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, like you know, any more of that, you just be, you know. Hearing loss is inevitable. And she just looks at me and she's like, I love you so much. And like, that's how I know I got the one, is that like, she puts up with it.
With the weirdness.
Yeah. And I've got this app that'll just, you know, give me frequent. And it's cool when you're tuning a room or like you're doing shit, audio shit. But like just in real life, you know, outside, I will just be like, ooh. And I think about that.
How many dBs is this?
Yeah. Or like, you know, what's the fundamental of like this room? And
it's your math brain very much.
Yeah. And like, but I don't filter it to a way that's like socially acceptable, so I'm just like and fortunately, like you said, man, she puts up with it. Like
this room is the epitome of small room reverb, by the way.
Yeah, totally like it's got a nice just you can feel it kind of like it catch and a bounce.
It's literally like if you have small room reverb on like anything, this room is it. Like it's perfect. Like if you wanted to record like small room reverb sound with an acoustic guitar, like this room is perfect.
Get a tweed champ and angle it up and just record that. It sounds so good.
Yeah, and this rug like literally does it. It's like it just really makes this room not too reverby.
It really ties the room together.
It ties the room together. The dude over here. Well, we'll end on that, so that way we're not. I'll talk one more time about our sponsor, Iechyd Whiskey. And thank you to Joe Dillstrom.
Thank you.
Tell us one more time where we can find you, and also about your new album. When do you have any idea when it's going to come out? Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm trying to post updates. Fingers crossed, Heartstring Tugs will be available on vinyl by May, June. I'll put out a single before that, so in the next month or two I plan to drop the first tune. But as far as just me in general, Facebook, of course, under my name, Joe Dillstrom, Pickle playing guitar.
Joe Dillstrom, yeah.
Joe
Dilly, I call him Dilly.
Dilly, yep. JoeDillstrom.com is my website. Also, I'm revamping my YouTube, so please feel free to look up my name and subscribe and like that, because I'm going to start churning out video content soon. Hopefully consistently, and try to get that going. And yeah, that's basically it, man. But thank you. It's always just like
one of the realest people I know right here.
Man.
I mean, like in the respect of like, it's if you get a chance to go see Joe, go see him again, have a conversation with him. Just a real human being. So appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, dude.
Yeah. Cheers.
Sure thing. Cheers.
And we'll see each other soon.
You got it, man.
I'll see you later, dude.
Man, but it was just so good to chat, you know.
Well, that's how it was with Molly too. I was like,